Well, we got breaking news on the NFL where the Rams have ruled out their star receiver in Puka Nacua for Sunday's game in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He suffered that ankle injury during last week's win against the Ravens and did not participate in practice this week. Nacua, of course, ranks top 3 in the NFL in catches and receiving yards. Sunday morning's game kicks off at 9:30 Eastern, but taking a look at those numbers in terms of what Puka has done there, 54 plus receptions and plus 600 receiving yards in the first 6 games. In other words, he's taken his game to another level there when it comes to that Rams receiver there. Maybe the jersey swap, who knows? Now having Davante Adams on the opposite side helps as well, and a healthy Matthew Stafford as well. All right, for more on this, as always, we bend our ear to who? Dave Richard, our fantasy guru, because right now a lot of us are looking at Puka as like that is our option on our roster. But other impacts when it comes to the Rams receivers, how does that help them?
It's not great. Obviously, it's great for Davante Adams, the one guy that it's really good for. But we were starting Davante Adams anyway. Must-start type of fantasy wide receiver. I would expect an uptick in targets for him against Jacksonville. But there are 2 other Rams receivers that I think are going to end up getting positively impacted out of this. Number 1 is Tutu Atwell. He's their deep downfield receiver. He's very fast. He's on the injury report too, but on Thursday he practiced on full. As long as he's playing, I think he's the number 3 wide receiver. And to a lesser extent in terms of upside, but maybe a higher floor, meaning he might see just as many targets, just might not do as much with them, is Jordan Whittington. We saw him replace Cooper Kupp last year as kind of a slot receiver. That's the role that Puka Nacua was in to begin this year. He's not a bad option too, both those guys. Atwell and Whittington available in over 50% of CBS Sports leagues. Good guys that you could consider plugging and playing against this matchup against Jacksonville, whose secondary has not been very strong this year.
So, of course, that is how it impacts the receivers on the roster. But if you're thinking about QB1 Matthew Stafford not having Puka out there, if you have him on your roster, how does that impact you?
Yeah, I think you do have to look in a different direction, but it depends on who's out there on the waiver wire. Certainly, you might have had Stafford and you might have been using him in tandem with somebody like Jared Goff. In that instance, I would go with Goff. Jordan Love is another quarterback. I would go with him. Caleb Williams, another quarterback. I'd rather go with Caleb Williams. I do not view Matthew Stafford as a top 12 quarterback, but he's close. And it's because of how good of a thrower he is and just how suspect this Jacksonville secondary is. I think the Rams might have a tough time running the football in the game. Jacksonville's defensive front is great. I know Devin Lloyd's not playing, but his replacement isn't bad. I think the Rams still take to the air just because Puka's not there. Yeah, that stinks, but I think they'll still have some connections downfield. You lower expectations a little bit from Stafford. Let's think of him as a top 15 quarterback, not a top 12 guy.
Again, Puka, of course, out for Sunday in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But if you're looking elsewhere on the waiver wire, give me maybe 2, 3, 4 guys that I need somebody, please.
So you can check for names like Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings, in San Francisco. Those guys are rostered in a lot of leagues, so you're going to have a hard time finding them. Same thing with Wan'Dale Robinson. But what if I told you I've got 4 names of wide receivers that you can use this week and next week when the Rams are on bye? Because listen, you're not having Puka for 2 weeks now, not just this week, and we still have to play fantasy in week number 8. Rashid Shaheed available in about 40% of CBS leagues. He's somebody that I would look for. He's got Chicago this week, Tampa next week. Tez Johnson is on this list. I really like the speedy rookie from Tampa. Love his matchups against Detroit and New Orleans over the next 2 weeks. Luther Burden in Chicago could get a good opportunity. And Josh Reynolds. Listen, we know that Garrett Wilson not going to play this week for the Jets. The Jets are looking for anybody who can catch the football. And Josh Reynolds was that guy last week. Kind of a low-end flyer, but the next 2 weeks, he's got the matchup this week, and then he's got Cincinnati in week number 8. I think that there is going to be an opportunity for Josh Reynolds to get some decent target volume. I do like Tutu Atwell better than almost all of these wide receivers, but Jordan Whittington would slide in behind most of them.
I was going to ask you about Garrett Wilson, of course, not expected to play Sunday with that knee injury. How does that impact Justin Fields, the receivers around them, and other receivers that may be an option?
I am the wrong person to ask about Justin Fields because I am not a fan of what we've seen from him this year. Just way too up and down. And then last week, under so much pressure, he really couldn't get anything done. Different type of matchup this week. He's going from playing in a hurricane to playing in light rain against Carolina, but that secondary is still pretty good. And they'll find ways to try and box him in and keep him from using his legs. I don't like him as a thrower, and that makes me nervous about guys like Reynolds and Mason Taylor. That's why I said that Reynolds was somebody who's more of a low-end option. You could potentially stream him for 2 weeks, but the numbers might not be great. Garrett Wilson is responsible for 75% of Justin Fields' passing touchdowns this year and about a third of his completions, and yardage. So taking him out from an offense that's already trying to just run the football as much as they can, in a game they might be able to run the football successfully with a lot of Breece Hall, just makes me nervous on the Jets' passing game as a whole.
Yeah, earlier this week, Aaron Glenn said that when it comes to those man-to-man situations, Justin has to capitalize with Garrett Wilson, but you won't be able to do that with him out this week. So we'll see the rest of the season how that pans out for him. As always, this is the guy you want to talk to, Dave Richard. But that's not the only time you can speak to him. Fantasy football today, him and the fellas always dialing in and helping us look, because we saw that both of them combined for 7 touchdowns. But when you look at it, what made Joe that much better than Aaron Rodgers?
They were both really good, honestly. I mean, it's unbelievable how Joe just got there 5 days ago on a short week and was able to click like that. But as much as this was about Joe Flacco, we all know playing against Joe Flacco, he has the ability to throw the ball forever. His arm is pure. His fade ball looks really good. Obviously, he's smart. He's poised. We know that about Joe Flacco. I'm disappointed in the Steelers' defense. They've been playing pretty well this year. They invested in bringing some key free agents over there. You got to pack a defense to win divisional games. They did not pack the defense. I played defense professionally for 11 years in the NFL. If we allow Jamar Chase 16 catches for 160 yards, you're going to lose the game. You sit in defensive game plans and say, we need to take away Jamar Chase. Joe Flacco's not a mobile guy, and he was running. The Bengals don't have a great run game, and they had a great run game that night. And then they didn't take away any of the Bengals star players. I think it was a fail on every level of the defense, and that was the most concerning part. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't Joe Flacco. It was the Steelers to not pack their defense on Thursday night to go win a game.
Logan, I'm just kidding with you here, but when you say 11 years in the NFL, it means nothing when you got 40-year-olds out there. Your old quarterback, by the way, Tom Brady, 45 years of age. We just saw 2 40-year-old quarterbacks playing, as I mentioned. How has the evolution of the game changed to allow them to play this long?
Well, they're able to play at 40, and my 11 means nothing because they don't get hit. And that's the evolution of the game. They are protected. The passing game is simpler in the league. They have the ability to run the ball as well as pass it. But I see with all these quarterback injuries coming up because of the quarterback's mobility, regardless of the rules, there's a lot of starting quarterbacks that aren't playing right now. I think you might see a trend coming forward of a little more pocket passers, a la Joe Flacco, a la Aaron Rodgers, because those guys have a career of finding a way to stay a little bit healthier throughout.
Yeah, a lot more bubble wrap the last 10 or 15 years in the league, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to that, seeing it play out so far. I want to get to the young pup and Cam Hayward, a little youngster, 36 years of age. He was kind of complaining about the Steelers' defense, and you hinted on that too. I want to show you this quote that he said after the game post saying, I think the front line, we got to control the line of scrimmage a lot better. I'm pissed off. We didn't take care of the job. Then I want to go on to say this. They were last in rushing, and the way they gave it up today, and that takes the cake. We got to stop the you-know-what run. That's as simple as that. When you hear that, Logan, and of course you playing on defense for so many years, and knowing that the Steelers have always been that steel curtain, or at least one of the best in the league, didn't show up last night, that message from King